So the greater scope of Donald Trump's homelessness plan is finally taking shape, everybody. Jack up the prices so you can't afford a place to stay, then you're homeless. Raise the price of all of the insurance for your health care. That way, if you get sick, you can't afford to be sick, pay your bills, and have a home, so you're homeless. Or make the food prices so high and take away everyone's SNAP benefits so that you have to steal, losing your house, and you're homeless. Or the food prices are so high you can't afford to either eat and have a home, and therefore you have to choose to eat, and you're homeless. So what is the response? In Utah, they are about to open up a concentration camp for homeless people. That's right, they make you homeless, and then their answer is to put you into a work facility to get on your feet again. Forced labor camp. Yeah, what does that sound like? And as we know, as my previous post showed, they're jacking up the prices of healthcare. Your premiums, my friend's premium went from $927 a month, and it's going as of January 1st, $2,950 a month. Yours is going to be going up also, whether it be by a few $100s or most likely by a few $1,000s. The cost of food is about to be risen also. Check it out. All you got to do is look it up. You won't be able to afford eating and having a place to stay. Farmers are about to be homeless now too, because guess what? He sold out the United States beef farmers to Argentina. He sold out all of the farmers that are importing labor. Now they're gone or leaving or scared to go to work. So the price of food is going to go up drastically. As a matter of fact, it already has. So I hope you're prepared to live in your concentration camp. I hope you're prepared to have forced manual labor, because they think anyone that's homeless is a criminal. They think everyone that's homeless is a drug addict and they need to be rehabilitated, or you're too lazy to work. And that must be the case. So, good morning, America. I hope this helps.
America is happening. A massive camp is being built in Utah under Trump's new crackdown, and people are calling it a modern-day slave camp. They say the homeless will be forced into labor or face jail time. They can't hide this anymore. This is the dark side of law and order they never told us about. Tighten your seatbelt, America, because this is getting real. I'm Tiana and you're watching Tiana's React. Well, let's dive in and see people's reactions to this. But before we do, please do well to like, share, and of course, subscribe to keep the channel moving.
This is what Trump's homeless plan actually looks like. Utah is building a 1,300-bed camp for homeless people, and advocates are calling it what it actually is: a forced labor camp. It's being built to enforce Trump's new executive order on homelessness, the one that threatens to cut funding from states unless they start criminalizing homeless people sleeping on the streets. The facility will sit on 16 acres of land outside Salt Lake City. State officials are calling it an accountability center. So all the members of the Trump regime are going to be held accountable in there too, or what? Advocates are calling it a prison with a nicer sign. Over 300 of the beds will be for people who will be involuntarily committed, meaning they'll be sent there against their will. Others will be assigned to work-conditioned housing, aka forced labor. Utah officials say it's a transformative way to handle homelessness. But this doesn't sound like help. It sounds like torture and punishment. This forced labor camp is a test run for Trump's national plan to build tent cities on cheap land. And in his words, where homeless people can be rounded up and put to work. The Trump regime is turning poverty into a crime, even though they're the ones responsible for making the poverty happen. So when Trump says he's ending crime and disorder, remember what that really means. He's rounding up poor people that he helped create and throwing them into forced labor camps against their will.
We now have our first involuntary camps in the United States. The Trump administration has taken 16 acres outside of Salt Lake City, where they are holding homeless people. They're calling it a service campus, but others are calling it a prison. But if you're not allowed to leave, what is it? It is a prison. So it's illegal to be homeless. There is no money to feed you. And it's a crime now in the United States. But we gave billionaires a $4 trillion tax cut. And Congress can't bother to show up to work. But we have started our first encampments in the United States of America. They will receive addiction and mental health treatment, whether they need it or not. Then they may be moved to BLM management land. Is that the answer?
So, for everyone who says to stop comparing Republicans to Nazi Germany, y'all gotta stop doing Nazi shit, man. You are building concentration camps. You have a new one coming to my own home state. And the description of it is almost exactly how they described the concentration camps that Hitler instituted. They weren't called concentration camps. They weren't called Schmurder camps. They didn't tell people what they were going to. What they told them is they were going to go to work. It was helping them. It was a resource for them. That is almost the exact language that Governor Spencer Cox of Utah uses to describe the new camp that they are building in Utah. Not too far from me. They say that it's for homeless, and it's to bring services, and to have a space where they can have it kind of all at once. But there's also going to be an involuntary commitment, where people they can't leave. The way that they talk about it, what Spencer Cox actually said is, so what we have to do is provide the services that people need, and we have to hold people accountable. This is the social order. You don't get to just camp wherever you want to camp. That can't be a thing. Okay. So why is your answer to involuntarily put these people in a camp? Why is that your answer, as opposed to actually helping, as opposed to maybe just giving them housing, giving them a home, giving them better health care? Why is it always punitive care? And why is it always going after the people who are being harmed and not the people who are harming them? Not the people who have caused these people to be homeless in the first place? Because really, most of the time, it's not just them. It's the people who refuse to pay them enough. It's the people who refuse to treat them for mental health because they just don't have the proper insurance. It's the people who don't look at them as human beings with a disease like addiction and treat them as criminals as opposed to people. That's where we have a problem. We look at these people as bad guys, as some type of moral failing, as opposed to human beings just like the rest of us. Why can't we respond to this with kindness as opposed to charging them, or not charging them, treating them as if they were criminals and just horrible people? What the fuck is wrong with us?
When Utah's mentioned in the New York Times, it's almost never a good thing. Happy Halloween, and today's Fresh Hill is Utah's new treatment-first approach to homelessness. The state of Utah announced its new plan for a services campus on the west side of Salt Lake City, literal mosquito swampland, where it plans to have 1,300 unhoused people, but people that care about people have classified this as a detention camp. After a very secretive search, the Homeless Services Board announced this new campus. The new head of this organization is a guy named Randy Shumway, who is a consultant turned homelessness czar, and this new service center is going to have an involuntary accountability center, and that includes 400 psychiatric beds for court-ordered treatment for mental illness, 400 addiction recovery beds as alternatives to jail, and this is all going to be run by law enforcement quote-unquote rescue teams that will find people that are homeless and offer them a choice. You can either go to court or go to this campus. And this center, you cannot come and go on your own. You have to stay there. It's essentially a prison, another prison.
Donald Trump issued an executive order that called for strict camping sentencing bans, expanded power to involuntarily treat homeless individuals, and the creation of large tent cities on cheap land. Governor Cox was very excited by this executive order, and he immediately told state leaders and cities to follow it. Utah has been a somewhat pioneer in addressing homelessness. We first approached this through what they called the Housing First model, where we reduced homelessness by getting people into housing before addressing addiction or mental illness. We are apparently pioneering the next iteration, which they are calling the Treatment First approach, tying basic shelter to compliant sobriety and submission. So the New York Times, in the piece that they released this week, interviewed some homeless folks in Pioneer Park, and one of them said, okay, so straight up, this reminds me of a concentration camp.
The cost for this services campus has a price tag of $75 million just for the construction. And it's going to cost $34 million annually to operate. And don't worry, we are a fiscally conservative state. We're just going to cannibalize current housing efforts instead of putting more money into solving this very important problem. Josh Romney, son of Mitt Romney, cautioned the state, saying that diverting $17 million from these other organizations will increase homelessness. He said we're going to be pulling people out of housing and into homelessness because of this plan.
On October 30th, Governor Cox named Representative Tyler Clancy as the next state's homelessness coordinator. Tyler Clancy is not a homelessness expert. He is not an addiction treatment expert. He's not a social worker. He's not anything in the field of homelessness. Tyler Clancy is a cop. This is a sign that Governor Cox wants to treat homelessness with law enforcement and compliance. Tyler Clancy was the former executive director of the Pioneer Park Coalition, who renamed themselves Solutions Utah. Their entire approach to homelessness was often get help or go to jail, which sounds familiar to all of this. As a legislator, Tyler Clancy has spent his last 2 legislative sessions building policy that follows that exact same approach. So now our entire homelessness strategy is in the hands of law enforcement rather than local government. Tyler Clancy plans to resign from the legislature after the 2026 legislative session, and then his seat will be up. That is a more competitive district than one might think. It's in the Provo area.
The new surge of interest on Utah's homelessness plan comes at a really critical point in Utah. We had an 18% increase in a single year. That is the largest jump that we have seen in recent history. A lot of the reason that this has happened is because of rising housing costs, stagnated wages, underfunded mental health and substance use disorder treatments. And on top of that, we are seeing people losing their SNAP benefits, people losing their Medicaid and Medicare, people's health insurance going up, all kinds of things that are going to push more people into homelessness. And now we are seeing Utah treating homelessness like a crime and essentially putting people into a prison in the middle of nowhere if they are homeless. These are the repercussions of the choices that people make in office and who we vote for. When talking about this new campus, Governor Cox said this is a statement of who we are as a state. And he is exactly right about that. When we talk about people that are homeless like they are problems to be solved, or every one of them has mental illness or substance use disorder, or it's their own fault for not working hard enough, we are doing a huge disservice not only to ourselves, but to our neighbors. You know more people than you think you do that are one financial incident away from being homeless. A lot of people that are on food assistance that you have no idea are on food assistance. These are our neighbors, these are our friends, these are our family members, and continuing to not treat people that are homeless with any sort of dignity or compassion or respect at all leads to this kind of model where they are involuntarily locked up and forced to be in a place that they do not want to be in. And that should be frightening to everyone in this country, frankly.
The governor of Utah has decided to make a new 1,300-bed facility for the homeless and people that are addicted to substances, in which they will not be able to allow to leave, and they will endure forced labor. Not only is this being pushed by Utah, but it's coming from the initiative being pushed by the orange sorbet dictator himself, and they call these campuses, quote, a transformative facility and a secure residential facility, in which if you are committed by a court, or if they find you on the street and they sweep you up, they can commit you there and you will not be allowed to leave until they deem you okay to do so. Let's be clear, this is a concentration camp. That's exactly what it is. They have described it in all of these big words, saying it's a transformative campus with labor where they will help you with your problems, but you're not allowed to leave. You're not allowed to leave. You will be committed by a court. And some may say this is better than jail. But you don't know what you're going to endure there. Whereas jail, you kind of know what to expect. This residential facility is already being built as we speak. And I could not be more concerned because this is a homeless prison. This is a homeless prison, and anybody who is deemed, which the person who is deeming can just say, you're homeless, you look homeless, you're addicted to something, you look like you're addicted to something, and now you're in an encampment. These are all initiatives being pushed by the current administration, as well
You know, as Utah, we know what kind of state Utah is, and we're only going to continue to see more of this, unfortunately.
I wonder if anybody's seen this. Trump and the Utah governor is planning on making homeless encampments. Essentially, the proposal here is that anyone in Utah that is homeless will be going to these encampments. And if they do not go to these encampments, they'll be imprisoned. Essentially, making homelessness illegal. This is coming out now on the news. Making these centers to house homeless people. What do you believe is going to happen when they start cutting more programs, like Section 8? More homeless, meaning more people in these encampments. These encampments equals places like FEMA camps. FEMA camp is a term used around 2012 and 2015 of these places that the government was creating to house homeless people to simply unalive them. So what do you guys think is going on with this homeless encampment in Utah? Let me know in the comments.
When compassion dies and control takes over, when poverty is punished instead of helped, this is how nations lose their souls. Watch closely because this is just the beginning. Well, if you've made it this far, thank you for watching. Please do well to like, share, and of course, subscribe to keep the channel moving. Till next time.